time to do some more post-processing, this time from video 005, which was my afternoon at Llyn y Dywarchen. Now, it's obviously not the best composition in the world. I still think it's worth processing because it was a lovely scene, and I'd like to keep it in my album. So what we'll do is just go into develop mode, use my standard preset. Pretty good, quite happy with the white balance on that. What I do need to do though is this definitely needs cropping in. I'm just going to make sure that that water is absolutely horizontal. Just going to bring it in to the end of the island there, down this right hand side, and over here just going to pull that up a little bit. I don't really need too much of the water because it's a bit boring. So something like that, I think that would do nicely. Okay, so as you may know from my other videos, I tend to start with highlights, shadows, whites and blacks, and then work out from there. So we're not going to do anything with the exposure, etc., contrast just at the moment. So first of all, let's pull these highlights down. It is quite a sort of flat, not very contrasty image at the moment, but we'll deal with that. Let's pull our shadows up. Now, I don't want to pull those up too far, just enough so there's detail in this little stand of forestry. And I'll pull the whites up a little and the blacks down a little. I want to clip the blacks ever so slightly, so you see up here my histogram they've just clipped slightly, but at least now I've got the proper black point set. I haven't burnt out the whites, so that's fine. And we'll bring the vibrance up, and what that's going to do is vibrance just increases the saturation on the less saturated colours. So in other words, it's kind of evening up the saturation across the image. But then the overall saturation, I'm just going to pull it down. We will work on individual colours in a little while. So I'm just going to darken that down with a grad filter. And I don't mind in this case that the grad filter is also affecting exposure of Snowdon itself, and that's obviously too much, so we'll just bring that up a touch. These lines here, this top line here, everything above that is 100% of the effect. It then narrows down there to the center line, which is 50% of the effect, as you can see there from the mask overlay, and then it fades down to 0 at this line here. So this emulates a soft graduated filter, but it does give that little bit of extra punch to Snowdon, which was looking a little bit washed out. So that's I think about all I need. I'm going to dehaze it just a touch. You can't emulate a polarizing filter in Lightroom. I actually had a polarizing filter on for this, but with skies, one of the closest ways of doing that is just a hint of dehaze will punch up the blues of the sky, if there's any blue in the sky, of course. So I'm quite happy with that. Coming back to here now, we can move the contrast up a little and the clarity, and that's starting to pick out the detail in Snowdon Summit, and that's what I was looking for. So as I mentioned earlier, it's not a classic composition, it's not going to win any prizes, but I didn't want to waste it because it is representative of a pleasant day out, and I enjoyed taking the picture, so it's just going to sit in my album. So next thing I'm going to do is just on the detail a little bit of noise reduction, and that's to compensate for the little bit of dehaze I put in the sky. That should do it. Just zoom in, take a look. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Not sharpening here, we'll do that in Photoshop. Now let's do something with the colours. First off, I'm going to use a little selection. I just want to grab some of this purple heather and crank up the purple and see how it immediately stands out. It's towards the end of the season and it was dying off a little bit, so some of the colour's gone out of it. Another thing I'm going to do is just desaturate the yellow, and what that does is it stops the grass looking as if it's radioactive, because you'll find yellow will affect the colour of grass much more than playing with the green. And also I just want to take the sky down just a hint, and my purpose of using the polarizing filter was for the glare on the water more so than saturating the sky. I sometimes find that if you use a polarizing filter and you've got a nice bit of blue sky, I think it just, for me, I find it oversaturates it, and so I wouldn't normally use a polarizing filter just to saturate greens and blues. I'm only really using it to take glare off of water or wet rocks or whatever I might have. I'm quite happy with that. I don't think we need to do a great deal more with that. Perhaps just on the saturation, we pick up the colours of the dead bracken and just bring that up a little bit. You can see it's pulling the yellow up again, but just giving a little bit more kick to that. That looks nice. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that, and we'll just quickly go to my standard vignette. I know people aren't so keen on vignettes, but I like them, so there. We will feather it out. Obviously we want it to be as subtle as it can be. You'll notice now though that it really has made quite an impact on this area down here. In fact, that is too much. I'll just pull it back out a little bit. But you'll see I often go back to my basic exposure panel. You see, when you look at that, it has the adjustments that I've made throughout. It's pulled the histogram right down here. It's clipping the blacks far too much now, so I just need to put a bit of sanity into that, and I can also pull up the whites. That's better, and just let it render itself. Yeah, that's fine. Happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is just go to Edit in Photoshop, duplicate the layer and turn it black and white, filter, high pass, and 3 pixels. Let's just have a look. Look at the summit there. Yeah, that'll be just about right. Okay, and then we're going to change that to overlay. That's better. If I just switch that on and off, it's barely noticeable, but it really does just take the edge off the softness back here. On a summer's day like this, there's always a bit of haze in the atmosphere, and that just helps to take that out and bring it to life a little bit. Okay, so with that, I'm quite happy with that picture. Join me in the next video when we'll do the processing on the other picture I had in Lightroom that actually I've got much higher hopes for. I think that could be a really interesting image. It was a shaft of sunlight. In fact, I'll just pop back and show you. That's the picture we're going to be working with. Looks washed out, looks like not really very much, but I really like it. I've got the train going up there and dozens of walkers walking up the paths there with this shaft of sunlight. So it is a really, really long lens on this shot. So obviously, you know, you're not going to have the intensity of colour to work with. Join me in the next video and we'll see what we can make of it. Thanks for watching.